Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Happy So What Day. I hope you're having a great start to your week. I'm Ellen March, Content Director for Sulky of America. If you're joining for the first time, definitely say hello in the comments in the live chat. I would love to see where you're watching from and how you found us today. Let's see. I have a really fun design to share with you today. It is brand new on the sulky.com website and it is absolutely for free for a limited time. So you can grab up the design that I'm going to feature today at no charge. And we'll go over that in just a moment. But we're really going to focus on how to embroider activewear. So stretchy, whether it's ready to wear garments or fabrics that you are embroidering before you assemble a pattern. I'm specifically going to embroider a pair of shorts today, and the embroidery is going to go along the edge. So we're also going to talk about how to do that when we can't hoop the fabric, which we don't really want to hoop a stretchy fabric anyway. We want to place it over the stabilizer that is already in the hoop. So, all right, now I can see everybody coming in and saying hello. And I encourage you to do so because I have a great gift today from Sulky. One lucky viewer who is watching, commenting, giving me those great emojis, sharing out this post. Also, you need to like our Facebook page if you're watching there, or subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching there. That way I can contact you if you happen to be today's lucky winner of the Sulky gift, which is an 11-yard roll of Sulky Soft and Sheer Stabilizer. That's right, it's valued at about 20 bucks or so, and great for activewear. I'm going to show you how I used it on today's project and give you an alternative as well, depending on the fabric that you are choosing. Lots of people saying, hey, it's hot and humid. Anita says, but I'm in the AC. Woohoo, love it. I know when it gets too hot out there, it's a great day to come inside, crank the AC, get out your sewing machine, and make something, right? So I hope that I am going to inspire you today to create something fun for the summertime. Before we get started, though, I do want to mention we only have something like 4 mystery boxes left at sulky.com. This is our Slice of Summer mystery box, and I really want these to sell out so that I can, talk about the main project inside and the secondary project that you can create using the items in this box. I'm also curious to know if people are kind of going out on their own and making something else from the items in the box. Because, of course, our patterns and inspiration, everything that we give you when you purchase a box, not only do we give you at least one pattern, maybe an embroidery design, something like this, but we give you tons of other links for tutorials, patterns, projects, and designs that you can use with the items in your box as well. So I'm always curious to know if somebody just goes out on their own and makes something else. That's kind of the spirit of these mystery boxes, right? You don't know what you're going to get, and we don't know what you're going to make. And so when you get the items, we love to see what you create with the items inside. Let's see. Colleen says, I made the main project, exploring other ideas. Chris got a box already. Love that. All right, perfect. Well, if you did not get a mystery box yet, now is your chance. Once these are gone, they're gone. They're only $49.99. And when you open your box, you might just get a golden ticket worth $50 at sulky.com. That's like getting your mystery box for free. So buy that lottery ticket, get that mystery box, and we'll see. Oh, I did hear from somebody who said it was their first time getting a mystery box and they love the items inside and they got a golden ticket. So amazing. Love hearing that. Giving away stuff is the greatest feeling. It might even be better than receiving stuff for free. you know? I love, sending that email or calling that person and saying, you are the winner. Love it. All right, so grab up those mystery boxes while you can. Also, pretty exciting stuff. Our So Can She Organizer webcast. We first debuted this webcast back in 2021, which feels like yesterday, honestly. I can't believe it's 4 years ago now. But we partnered with Caroline Critchfield of So Can She, and we presented her twice as nice zippered organizer pattern during this live webcast back in 2021. It was one of the most popular webcasts. Everybody loves this project. When you open up the organizer, you have some see-through vinyl pockets with zipper closures and a magnetic snap, and everything fits nicely inside. You can see it's all open so that when you open it up, it can open up totally flat as well. So it's great for travel when you have all your toiletries inside and you're at that little sink and you can kind of open everything up, see what's inside, grab what you need. It's also great for storing your sewing supplies, craft supplies, and it has these great gussets on the bottom, right? So it also stands up on its own. It has some foam interlining to give it some body. And that way, when you quilt it up using the quilting of your choice, there's some nice puffy quilting that gives it some texture too. This kit is a limited edition Tula Pink fabric kit. So 3 Tula Pink fat quarters, including Tula Pink zippers and Tula Pink snap. Everything coordinates so nicely. So the kit comes with the fabric, the vinyl, the zippers, the snap, a little bit of sulky stabilizer to go in your zipper panels, I guess you'd call them. And then, of course, sulky threads for construction and for the quilting. So if you registered for this webcast back in 2021, you still have access to that video and it's stored in your library forever and ever. If you have not registered for it, you can register for this now. It will go into your library and you have instant access to watch that video from 2021, which includes all kinds of tips and tricks for quilting and assembling the organizer. And if you want to add machine embroidery to the front of it, those instructions are also in that webcast video. You also get access to the PDF presentation that we put together for that event. But this kit, I just wanted to show you everything that's in it. So these 3 fabrics from the Tula Pink line by Free Spirit, the 2 beautiful zippers and magnetic snap by Tula Pink, courtesy of Sally Tomato, and then those 2 threads, the stabilizer, the vinyl, and then also the little pattern piece. Okay, so I want to explain the pattern piece just a little bit. It's a digital PDF pattern piece that comes with purchase of this kit. However, the instructions for creating this and a printable pattern are also offered for free through So Can She. So I just want to, preface that the printable PDF version of the pattern is included with purchase of this special edition kit. By the way, the kit is only $29.99 on sale at sulky.com. $29.99. I don't know that you can buy 3 designer fat quarters for $29.99 anymore. So anyway, I know a lot of you purchased up the kits that we put together for that first webcast back in 2021. It was made with some beautiful art gallery fabrics. We have 2 different colorways. We went through them, I think 2 or 3 times of reordering, but I do want to mention that this Tula Pink one, the reason it's limited edition is because they're just not making these fabric prints anymore. So what's left is what's left. So once these kits are gone, they're gone. And they are going fast. So if you are interested in a So Can She organizer kit, in this beautiful Tula Pink colorway, then you can grab that up at sulky.com. Marianne says, I registered for the webcast in 2021, purchased the kit, and completed the project to give as a gift for my daughter-in-law. I love that. Let's see. Coral says, I adore the fabrics. It's sitting on my machine, ready to sew. Love that. Yes, Alexis is saying, will this be easy enough for me to do? It is lovely. I think it's a great beginner, confident beginner project. The trickiest part of the whole thing is really doing the binding. And I want to mention that I still have my English paper piecing travel kit inside of here, but inside of mine, you see these little tabs here that I added binding to. So in the pattern instructions, she just has those edges raw, and you either serge finish or zigzag finish those edges. Well, I wanted them completely covered because I feel like when I'm going in and out of the zippered pocket, those little ends of the little gusset are probably going to undergo some stress over time. You know, my things are going to knock into them, and I just didn't want the thread to unravel. So I added binding. I used some leftover binding from when I did the entire case, and I used some leftover binding for those gusset corners. That is not in the pattern or in her blog post at socanshe.com. That instruction or instructions for that are only available in our webcast. So you'll find out how I did that. And if you want it to blend in a little bit more, you could certainly take the fabric that you use for the interior of the case, make some little binding strips and use that, and it would completely blend in. You wouldn't even notice them. I intentionally used that leftover pink checkered binding strip so that you could see what I've done here where I bound those edges. So I have nothing raw showing. I don't have any exposed threads there. And I don't know, I like that finishing touch a little bit better. So just to let you know, that was kind of my contribution to her pattern, but otherwise, it is so nicely constructed, thoughtfully constructed, and I just love it for so many things. And yes, it does make a really great gift and great for personalizing. A monogram would look great on here. Just a regular embroidery design, a motif of your choice, maybe a licensed design for a college or your favorite sports team. That would look great on here, especially for a gift. It would make a great gift for somebody going off to college, going off to the dorms. You could put, you know, like I said, a monogram or the college kind of logo on here in machine or hand embroidery and personalize it for the recipient. So great project. And yes, I do believe that a beginner can tackle it. All right. Let's see. Yes, lots of people saying it's so hot and sunny. Yeah, it feels like we wait forever for summer to get here, and then it is, and we're so hot. So it's a blessing and a curse, right? As they say. All right, well, let's get to today's project, speaking about it being hot and us enjoying the outdoors. You know, I have kids who are in sports, not necessarily year round, but it just seems like they never are quite syncing up. So once one ends, another one begins. Maybe they overlap a little bit. You know how it is. I have become the human taxi. But one of my daughters has been in soccer since she was 3. And so soccer is big in our family. My son was in soccer for a long, long time. At one point, all 3 of my kids were doing soccer. It was this person's on this field over here. You get the drill. So we have this great new design. It's called Peace, Love, Soccer. And it is digitized for a thicker thread. So I think it's really important to address this. When you purchase an embroidery design, it is typically digitized for a 40 weight thread. Whether that thread is rayon or polyester, like Sulky Poly Deco, is really a personal choice, but the thread weight is really important, and here is why. So when you digitize a design, you are telling the machine how long and or how wide to create those stitches to either outline or fill a specific area of the design with thread. So when you are working with a 40 weight thread, you will digitize it in a way where, let's say we're talking about filling a soccer ball or just filling a circle. You will digitize it so that your threads are spaced a certain amount apart so that the thread will fill that area with stitches or with color, right? So when you go up or down in thread weight, let's say you go up to a 30 weight thread. Now you're stitching that same filled in area with a thicker thread. So you may end up with areas of the design where it looks like the thread is almost loose or the thread is being stitched over itself. And it might sound very minute to go up in thread weight just from a 30 weight to a 40 weight. That's very slight in thickness, but it can make all the difference if you are filling in an area that is even, this small or this big. So if you are noticing that your needle is stitching over an area in the fill stitch areas, or if your outline stitching almost looks like it is stitching on top of itself, then your thread weight might be too thick for what the digitizer intended. So always check out the description of the design. Typically on the color chart, it will say not only what color, but what type and weight of thread is intended for that portion of the design. So conversely, if you go to a lighter weight thread, let's say my design is digitized for 40 weight rayon, and I choose to use a 50 weight cotton, which is lighter than a 40 weight, now my stitches are going to be too far apart from each other, and I might have gaps in those filled in areas. Is this making sense? All right, so we really want to use the thread weight that is intended by the digitizer for our embroidery designs. Now, in some instances, you might have a design that has 40 weight rayon for some portions of the design and all the way up to a 12 weight, let's say, filane thread in portions of the design. If you stitch the entire design using that 40 weight thread, instead of moving up to a thicker 12 weight thread, when you get to those 12 weight areas, you're never going to fill in all of those stitched areas because your needle is going to move over to compensate for the thread thickness, but your thread is too lightweight for that. Everybody with me? All right, so very important to consult your color chart. Make sure you're swapping out thread weights as well as thread colors when your machine stops for the design. Okay, so this particular design, Peace, Love, Soccer, let me show you what it looks like here. Here it is on a pair of athletic shorts. It is sort of, I guess you would say, a sketchy design. So by that, I mean it is a lot of straight stitches, but to achieve the thickness or the fill stitches, it is stitched over multiple times in straight stitches rather than using a fill stitch. A fill stitch would be like a heavier satin fill. Sometimes you can have a basket weave fill stitch. There's all sorts of different types of fill stitches. You can have long and short stitches to fill areas. Sometimes if you have a fill stitch that's maybe next to another one, they will have different fill stitch patterns so that you can decipher between the two objects, and it gives it a kind of different visual interest. So your eye knows that those are two different balloons or something like this. Okay, so for this design, it's a sketchier design, meaning that it's all these running stitches or straight stitches to create the look of a fill. So for that, we get to use a heavier thread so that it really pops off of the surface. It also helps to choose a contrasting color of thread so that that color really pops off of the surface too. So I love the look of the white thread on the black shorts. I think it looks really striking, and it's a small design, but we can see it from far away, right? We know that that is Peace Love Soccer. So another thing that makes this design okay for a heavier weight thread is that the stitches are a little bit longer. Okay, so when we're working with a heavier weight thread, we don't want that standard 2.5 millimeter stitch length, because it's almost going to look like our stitches are on top of each other. They're just going to look too close together because of the thickness of that thread. So we go up to a 3.0 or even 3.5. A 3.5 is great when we're doing these running stitches that kind of go on top of each other to create that sketchy look. So that's another reason that we can use this heavier weight thread for this design. So all those things were intentional. The stitch length and the type of fill, meaning those running stitches or straight stitches, so that it is now digitized for a heavier 30 weight thread. So I did test this design using a 40 weight thread, and it actually also works. But sometimes, especially when you're using a denser fill stitch in a design, you can't always swap those thread weights. All right, so for this, I highly suggest using a 30 weight thread. Our 30 weight cotton thread is great. This is the one I used. It's a soft white 30 weight thread. And yes, you can use cotton thread for machine embroidery. I get this question a lot, isn't it going to create all this lint and that type of stuff? Not when you're using sulky. I will say, if you're going to embroider shorts for everyone on the team, you may want to brush off your needle between stitch outs just to make sure that everything is nice and clean for each subsequent stitch out. And of course, swap your needle every, 5 or 6 stitch outs for this particular design. It is recommended. I don't really remember what the rule of thumb is. Is it 60, 80,000 stitches that you should swap your needle? A lot of the times I just say do it with every new stitch out, but that's really only if we are doing a design that has loads of stitches on it. And this is a really simple line weight design. It fits in a 4x4 hoop. It's great for everyone and stitches out really fast. So I would say you could get several stitch outs with a new needle before having to swap it. All right. So I also wanted to show you just kind of a side-by-side comparison because it's actually not that hard to see the different weights. So this is a 30 weight cotton thread, very discernible, right? You could see it really well. This is a 40 weight rayon thread. So not only do we have a difference in weight, which you can actually see on camera here pretty well, but also the rayon is a little bit, a lot bit shinier. It has this sheen to it, right? So depending on the desired look that you want for your shorts or your design or whatever you're creating with this Peace Love Soccer design, you can go with the 30 weight thread or the 40 weight thread. Just know it was digitized for the 30 weight, and it's going to show up the best and have the best quality stitch out because that's what the digitizer intended for this design. For bobbin thread, I use a 60 weight bobbin thread, and I match my bobbin thread to the shorts or to the item that I'm embroidering. So I used a black bobbin thread, 60 weight. You could also use a 60 weight poly light thread. The point is that we want our thread on the back to be lighter weight than our thread on the top. That way, our top thread is going to slightly be pulled to the wrong side of the garment or the fabric. And that's how we know in embroidery that we're getting a balanced stitch. In regular sewing, you don't want to see either thread on top or bottom. We don't want to see bobbin thread on the top, and we don't want to see top thread on the wrong side. So in regular sewing, that's how we know we have a balanced stitch. But machine embroidery, the tensions are different. We want that upper thread to slightly be seen on the wrong side. So using that lighter weight thread is what's going to help pull that top thread to the wrong side of our fabric and give us that great balanced stitch. All right. So for the shorts specifically, I want to talk about the type of shorts that I used first of all. I found a pair of athletic shorts, honestly, at the Hobby Lobby, and they are like a sweatshirt material, but super lightweight. So, obviously when you're running and you're out there on the field, you don't want shorts that are going to make you even hotter than you already are. So these are a really lightweight, soft knit shorts, okay? But I also did this design using a performance weight short fabric because once my daughter wore these out on the soccer field for practice, 2 of her friends wanted the exact shorts. So their parent gave me their favorite shorts, and I was able to also embroider those. So I'm just going to tell you the differences while we go through the embroidery process, and it really has to do with the stabilizer. That's it. I use the same thread and needles for all of the shorts, whether it was this soft kind of sweatshirt fleece or the performance weight, but the stabilizer is different. So first off, to get that perfect placement, because I want it on the edge of the shorts, I had my daughter try on the shorts, and then I sort of auditioned where that perfect placement would be while she's wearing it. I think that's really important. Instead of just having your shorts flat on your work surface and eyeballing it, it's important to put them on and really make sure that that's where you want the design. Because we all have lumps and bumps and different things going on with our bodies. And once we wear them and our curves are taking over, that design might look different when worn than when it does when it's flat on your work surface. So really important to check those things before you go ahead and stitch the shorts. All right, so I like to print a template of my design. Really difficult to see that the design is actually on this template because it was intended for this soft white thread. So if you are printing a template of the design using software, you might want to go ahead and change the thread color just for printing the template so that you can see it a little bit better. I could actually see it just fine. It's just hard to see it in this photo. All right, so the important thing is to also print out those center cross marks of our design when we print out the template. A lot of softwares will, ask you, do you want to print everything? Do you want to print the color chart? Do you want to print the stitch count? Do you want to print all these things? And you can kind of tick off the items that you don't want to print out on your template, saving yourself a little bit of printer ink. But important to also include those center cross marks for our placement aid. If you do not have software or a way to print your embroidery template, you can take the size of the design and just create a paper template in that size. So you'll cut out a little rectangle to the size of your design, and then you can go ahead and mark your own center cross marks on your paper template. All right, so once we have that printed, then we can audition it on the shorts. Again, have the recipient wear it when you're auditioning it. And then you can either use some KK2000 and stick that template in place and then remove the shorts, or you can just pin it in place for the time being until you can get your shorts flat again on your work surface. So I'm going to take that template and put it where I want it. And now you can sort of see my Peace Love Soccer showing up there in the photo. So now we're going to go ahead and mark those center cross marks onto our fabric using some chalk or your favorite removable fabric marker. So I just tick, my vertical and horizontal lines along the edge of the template, and then I connect those lines with my clear ruler. So now I have the location of my embroidery design marked on the shorts. I will say I double and triple checked this because it was so close to the edge, and I was getting a little nervous that the design was going to run into my hem stitching, but after everything was said and done, it was fine. All right. So now we're going to deal with our stabilizer. And as I mentioned, we're not going to hoop our shorts. Now, when you're working with stretchy fabrics, whether it is the fleece, a knit t-shirt, the performance weight shorts, which actually had a lot of four-way stretch going on in them, we don't want to put those in the hoop because our fabric can stretch in the hoop. And I will say, if you are using a magnetic hoop like I am for this, you maybe can get away with hooping your shorts in those magnets. However, since I was putting the design right on the edge of the shorts, it was more difficult for me to get the shorts in the magnetic hoop. So I just decided to do hoopless embroidery regardless of whether I was using a standard hoop or a magnetic hoop. If magnetic hoops are new to you, however, check them out at sulky.com because they add an amazing time saver and just expand the capabilities of your hoops. So check those out. At any rate, for the lightweight fleece knit short variety, I am using Sulky Soft and Sheer Stabilizer. What I love about this stabilizer, it's very lightweight. It's not scratchy against your skin. It's a permanent stabilizer, so it is going to stabilize the design over the life of the shorts. So what it's going to do is make it so that our shorts do not stretch only where we have stitching. The rest of the shorts around the stitching will still stretch and move with our body when we're wearing them. We don't want to use a fusible stabilizer here, which would be Soft and Sheer Extra. The extra means it has a fusible coating to it. The reason we don't want to do that is because then our shorts will not stretch wherever we have that fusible, right? The fusible is going to make it so that those fibers don't move anymore. So that's why we want a cutaway, not a fusible cutaway, but a cutaway stabilizer that remains behind the thread, but is not attached to the fabric itself. So those two layers move independently, except where we have the thread. Also, Soft and Sheer comes in white or black. So I'm able to use the black Soft and Sheer to match my black shorts. So when my daughter's running and things like that, you don't see anything popping out from behind the shorts. The black stabilizer just kind of blends in to the black fabric. So that's a really nice option to have. All right. Incidentally, the black Soft and Sheer is what I'm going to give away today for one lucky viewer who is watching, commenting, giving me those great emojis. You also need to have liked our Facebook page if you're watching there, or subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching there. That's all you have to do to be automatically eligible to win a pack of black Soft and Sheer stabilizer for your own athletic shorts. All right. Obviously, you can use it on other things as well, different types of leggings, athletic, stretchy, capri pants, things like that, black t-shirts, all sorts of things, or navy, or anything really of that darker color. All right, so we are going to take a piece of soften shear and cut it to a little bit larger than our hoop size. Susan says, what about action back? And I'm going to get to that momentarily. Actually, we'll just talk about it now since you brought it up. Okay, so if you are using a performance weight fabric, or something, let's say rayon, or a stretchy poly spandex, something like this, you want to switch your stabilizer to Sulky Action Back stabilizer. Action Back is also a cutaway stabilizer that is not fusible. It's a little bit thicker in weight, and it does so well, so much better even than soften shear on those types of fabrics. You can get pucker-free, fabulous embroidery using that Action Back stabilizer, whereas you may have needed to use 2 layers of soften shear on those types of fabrics. Now you can use just 1 layer of Action Back. Action Back is great for those like silky, stretchy golf tees, things like that. Soften shear, yes, is similar to a polymesh stabilizer, whereas Action Back feels more like a woven interfacing. Does that make sense? All right, so depending on what your shorts are made of, you're going to swap your stabilizer. So for the knit, kind of fleecy, lightweight shorts, I use the soften shear. And then for the performance weight, little bit of spandex rayon blend shorts, I use the Action Back. Okay, thank you for bringing that up. While I was talking about stabilizer, that makes much better sense to just talk about it all at once. But we are going to treat them the same. We are only going to hoop the stabilizer. Okay, so stabilizer is in the hoop. Now we have loaded the design into our machine, and we're going to choose the based around design function. I love using this function on my machine for perfect placement. I'm not going to use it to actually baste my shorts in place. I'm going to use it as a placement aid. Okay? If you like to also baste your fabric in place when you're doing hoopless embroidery, you can run the basting stitch step twice. Once for placement, and then secondly to attach your ready-made item or fabric in place. Okay? I skipped that step because with this small design, I'm able to use the KK2000 to secure my shorts in the hoop, and it didn't go anywhere. All right. Let's see. Sharon says, Action Back. I've never heard of that either. Looks like I need to visit the Sulky website and read about these stabilizers. Action Back is totally new. We've only had it for a little while now. We did an embroidery session on lounge pants, and that's when we debuted the Action Back stabilizer. So the lounge pants were made of a double brushed poly spandex fabric. They just felt like butter in your hands, so comfortable to wear. And we did embroidery down the whole leg of the lounge pants. So if you missed that, you can go to sewingonline.sulky.com and add the embroidered lounge pants to your library. It's $19.99, but you get the pattern, the embroidery design, all kinds of video instruction for not only creating the pants, but also embroidery on these tricky performance weight type fabrics. All right. So based around design function, if you don't have this function, that's okay. Mark your center cross marks onto your stabilizer, and then use that paper template that you created for the placement on the shorts, and you can mark a little box onto your stabilizer without doing it in stitches. All right. So we're going to put our hoop onto the machine. And as I said, we're only going to stitch that basting box right onto the stabilizer. Then you can remove the hoop from the machine and we will mark those center cross marks. You can either use your template to mark the cross marks, or your hoop probably has center cross mark little markings on your inner hoop. Or if you're using a magnetic hoop, you probably have the stickers applied onto your hoop. I have the stickers applied to some of my magnetic hoops, but some of them I leave in this way because quite honestly, it looks better in photography. So that's why mine don't have the stickers on them. But your magnetic hoop does come with stickers and a tutorial for how to place your stickers properly on those hoop portions. Okay, so now I have my basting box for placement. I have my vertical and horizontal cross marks for placement on my stabilizer as well. And now all I need to do is take my shorts that have been marked and stick them to my stabilizer that's been marked, match up all of those markings, and we are almost guaranteed perfect placement. Now, it is so important to get perfect placement when you're working with ready-made items because that's your one shot, right? So double, triple, quadruple check these placement things just to make sure your design is going to sew out as intended. Okay, so we're going to take some KK2000 and you can spray a little bit on the stabilizer and a little bit on the back of the shorts so that we get a really good bond of those together. All right, so now, and it's really nice that these shorts have that little notch out on the side seam. It allows me to get it really nice and flat onto the hoop. But you might find, depending on the shorts that you're using, that you have to turn the shorts inside out a little bit just to get that area nice and flat. Do not, and I repeat, do not stretch the fabric when you are placing it onto the stabilizer. If you do so, it will look nice and flat now, but then when you go to remove your stabilizer, all of a sudden you will have puckering around your embroidery. That's because you stretched the fabric, even if it's slight, when you placed it in the hoop or over the hoop in this case. Okay, so no stretching, make sure it's nice and flat, pucker free. Make sure that all of our lines are matching up. Compare everything 3 or 4 times, and then place your hoop back onto the machine very carefully so that nothing shifts. And then it's just a matter of embroidering the design. This one comes together so quickly because it's just one color. That 30 weight soft white is what is intended by the digitizer. But of course, you can choose any color that you like. Maybe your child has some team colors that you want to incorporate into the practice pants, and that would be really cute. So it's just one color stop, and you can slow your machine down ever so slightly as well during the stitch out, since we are working with that heavier weight thread and our stitches are a little bit longer when they're being created. So slowing the machine down can't hurt for a great stitch out. So just to reiterate, I have 60 weight bobbin thread in the bobbin in a black color to match the shorts. And then I have 30 weight thread in the top. So what needle am I using? Size 90-14 needle with the 30 weight thread. The needle size is going to correspond with the thread weight. So if you do choose to swap to a 40 weight rayon thread in the needle, maybe you want that sheen, you want the shine, you have the perfect color that you want to use an 80-12 needle for the 40 weight thread. Okay, we want the needle eye to be just big enough for the thread to pass through, not any bigger, not any smaller. If it's too small, our thread's going to break. If it's too big, we might have thread loops because there's too much room in that needle eye and the thread's just flopping around in it while we're doing our high-speed sewing. Okay. Let's see. Oh, and an embroidery needle is what I used. Embroidery needle, actually has a slight ballpoint tip to it. So it works really well for knits. We do not want to use a sharp needle like a Microtex or a top stitch, because we don't want the needle to pierce through our knit fabrics if we're using a knit fabric, of course. We instead want the needle to move those fibers aside and making room for that thread instead of piercing it and creating a hole. All right. Let's see what size. Missed what you said for 30 weight thread. We're going to use a 90-14 needle for 30 weight thread. Okay. So as you can see, we have a couple of jump threads we need to clean up after the stitch out is complete. Just use your trusty curved tip squeezer, which I always think is right next to me, but it's over there on the cutting table. Talk about this scissor a lot. It's affordable. It's only about $7 or so. It's called the curved tip squeezer. It's the best thing for trimming jump threads because the end has a curved tip to it, so you don't risk puncturing the fabric when you're trying to get in and clean up those jump threads. I also, especially when I'm doing a garment, clean up the jump threads on the wrong side of the project as well. Just a few that you need to trim up, no big deal. All right, once those are all trimmed, now we're going to trim up the stabilizer on the wrong side. So just get as close as you can while still leaving a bit of a border beyond the stitching and trim up that soft and sheer. Or if you are using action back, of course, you will trim up the action back. You do not need a lot of excess stabilizer beyond the design. And I leave it intact inside the heart, inside, the soccer fill stitch area, just to provide that additional support. But remember, it is not fused to it. So your garment will still stretch around the stitches, but your stitches won't stretch because that's where the stabilizer has been stitched down. All right. Once we have all of that cleaned up, done. Super simple design that completely transforms these plain shorts into something special. So absolutely love it. This would be great for coaches. It would be great on, a sleeve hem, even as a little sort of design right on the chest pocket area. Super cute. It can unify a whole team, even for practices, make everybody have, team spirit and have them all come together. So very, very cute. Love how it turned out. It's really striking when you use that contrast thread on that background fabric, and in that heavier weight thread really helps this design stand out. So again, this is a free design right now at sulky.com. It's called Peace, Love, Soccer. I linked directly to it in the description of today's post. So all you have to do is add it to cart, go through the checkout process. It will say $0, even if you add other things to your cart, like the action back stabilizer, the soft and sheer in that black or white color, the 30 weight thread, the 60 weight bobbin thread, and maybe you need a pack of needles as well. No matter what you add to cart, that pattern, or that design will still say $0. And then once you go through the checkout process, the design files will end up in your sulky.com account, so you can access them there. They will be all zipped together for you, and you can go ahead and use the design. So very, very cute idea. And if you do have a soccer lover in your life, I also wanted to bring your attention to our very cute soccer embroider buddy. I don't know if you've heard of embroider buddies. I've talked about them on some of our previous So What's because we have them in all sorts of varieties. So we have them in sports balls, basketball, soccer ball, football, you get the idea. But we also have them as stuffed animals. So there's dinosaurs and teddy bears and bunnies and all kinds of stuffed animals And the cool thing about embroider buddies is they are made so that you unzip a portion, or in this case, the whole thing, take out the inner stuffing, which is all enclosed, and then you can embroider the item, which we would do hoopless embroidery, just like we did for the shorts, but placing our soccer ball inside out and then making it nice and flat. And since this is a stretchy fleece, we could use that soft and sheer stabilizer underneath and then a solvy topper over the top so that our stitches sit nice and proud on top of that fabric nap. Go through the embroidery process. You could even put the Peace Love Soccer design on this design and then maybe somebody's name over the top of it. So cute. Maybe you have a new baby that's joining the family and you want them part of the soccer team. You could gift this to a new mom. You get the idea. So cute. At any rate, this soccer embroider buddy is also at sulky.com, along with tons of sports related ones. And like I said, stuffed animals as well. When you do the stuffed animals, you can embroider on their little tummies, and you can take sections of the animal out for embroidery if you want to do a paw or along, the arm of a teddy bear instead. All of those pieces will come out as separate little pillows that you then put in after embroidery is complete. So very thoughtfully constructed with the embroiderer in mind. So very, very cute. All right, let's see. Linda says, in the past, I've left too much stabilizer behind and it curls with washing. That's a good point. So you do want to get as close as you can to the stitching line, obviously without cutting through it. You want to leave maybe an 1/8 to a 1/4 inch border along the stitching. And you can also follow the curves of the embroidery. Another idea is to use pinking shears. Let's say your embroidery is very square or rectangular. You can trim that stabilizer using pinking shears, getting close to the stitching line. And that somehow helps with those issues of curling, or especially if you're using a fusible stabilizer, using the pinking shears helps it adhere a little bit better to the wrong side of your fabrics. So just a little tip you might try when you're removing your stabilizer. All right, Allie says, love this design. Thank you, Allie. Sue says, I embroidered on the monkey blank. It turned out so cute. I love these little blanks. So cute. Let's see. Easy to embroider. Yes, and we do have some tutorials for the embroider buddies on the Sulky blog. So if you are interested in grabbing one of those up, you can head on over to the Sulky blog and just search embroider buddies, and you'll find several tutorials, including some design inspiration, design ideas, monograms. As I mentioned, if you do make one for a new baby, it's great to put their birth date on there. It's a really special gift that's nice and personalized for them. All right. Are your daughter's friends asking you to embroider their shorts? Yes, they are. Everyone wants them. And thankfully, this design stitches out so quickly. So it's not a huge ask. And, I'm 100% okay with making that happen so that everyone has the cute little shorts that match. All right. Super cute design. I like that the design will work for boys and girls alike. That's a really good point as well. Again, great for a coach's gift at the end of the season. Put it on their shirt, and then the coach has a shirt that matches everyone's shorts. I mean, I love that design. All right. Okay, I think... Oh, Sharon says, I used to use the Microtex needle and wondered why I had holes. Yeah, if your needle is super sharp, it's going to puncture through knit fabrics rather than push those knit fibers aside to make room for that thread. So that's why a ballpoint needle is really essential when you're constructing garments using these types of fabrics. but also embroidery. So since embroidery needles have a little bit of that ballpoint tip, we can use those to embroider on these types of fabrics. All right, let's see. Deb says, this design is so cute for my granddaughter, and she even has the same soccer socks as in the picture. So cute. Love that. Betsy says, I've made up many embroider buddies. They are so easy. Love that. Esther's going to add it to her great grandson's soccer team shorts. Perfect. Okay. Sue embroidered the monkey blank. Love it. So you all know about the embroider buddies, but we have a great selection at sulky.com. So check those out. They really, really do make great gifts. All right. One last thing I want to make sure everyone is aware of is, I know I've been talking about our Christmas market tour that's happening at the end of this year, but I was informed yesterday that this tour is going to close for registrations on August 7th. Okay, so that's going to be here before we know it. So if you need to make some plans, if you've been thinking about this, but you're not sure, now is definitely the time to pull the trigger. Once the tour closes, we cannot open it back up for registrations because we need everybody to have time to make sure their passports are in order. And Craft Tours puts together this amazing gift package for you, and they need time to assemble that, get it to you in advance. It includes an itinerary booklet that is printed for everyone in full color, which includes all of our hotel information, what we're doing every day. It has a little notes area in it so you can, mark down where you ate that day, what you had for dinner, where you shopped, what you bought that day. It's a really, really great way to keep track of your travels so that when you get home and you're trying to process everything, you can just go through your book and say, oh yeah, it was day 2 that we did XYZ and I had this amazing pizza or whatever you ate. I always like to mark down what I ate, where I was, especially if it's a great restaurant, maybe I want to go back to someday. But at any rate, this tour closes August 7th. Okay, so if you have any questions about this tour, if you're on the fence, if you want to talk to me about it, what to expect, why should I do this tour with Craft Tours and Sulky? I mean, this will be my 4th or 5th Christmas market tour. I think 4th Christmas market tour. And it is so special, so amazing. The Christmas markets in Germany, I mean, that's where it all began. And they do it right. We will also be going to Austria. You will see Mozart's birthplace. We will be seeing lots of scenes from where Sound of Music was filmed. We're going to make apple strudel in the middle of a mountain. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. Definitely a bucket list tour, and I encourage you to check it out using the link that I put in the description of today's post so that you go to the Sulky page of Craft Tours and you can see not only our Germany Christmas market tour, but also our Greece trip that is happening in 2026. This is going to be in end of May, early June, right before the heavy touristy time begins in Greece. So it's going to be a trip of a lifetime. So check that one out as well. And now is really the time for that as well, so that you can get on a payment plan and things of that nature to make it a little bit more affordable for you if that is necessary. So definitely join us. And I do know we have a lot of people on this Christmas market tour, so few spots remain, but I would love to fill it up because the more the merrier, and you're going to absolutely love it. Alexis says, are the tours large or small? So we cap our tours at 30 people. That's it. Sometimes we have a smaller group, like when we went to Ireland, we had around 14 people, I want to say, and it's a great size. We have an amazing bus, amazing coach that takes us around that is so luxurious. If you need to nap on the way to somewhere else, you feel so comfortable. And we have a great Craft Tours tour guide that joins us that explains everything, where we're going, what we're doing. And even if you are a solo traveler, this is the way to travel, okay? Because you just wake up and get on the bus and they tell you what we're doing that day and you're just along for the ride. It's so low stress and you're with like-minded people who love to sew and quilt and craft and create. We do a hands-on sewing workshop one of the days for a few hours. So we get to commemorate our travels with a sewing project, and they're just absolutely amazing. Julie wants the link for the tours. So the link for the tours is at the very end of the description of today's post. So if you're not seeing everything in the description, click on that little see more button, or it might just say more if you're watching on YouTube. The whole description will pop out. You can scroll down, find links to everything that I was talking about today, including our mystery box and our Craft Tours trips. So at the very bottom of the post there, you will find that link, and you can head on over, check out the itineraries, check out the pricing, check out all the details, and get on the list to come with us. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining me today for So What? I hope you have some peace, love, soccer in your future. And I hope you learned a little bit more about embroidering on activewear and stretchy fabrics because it's not as hard as you may think. So thanks for joining me today. And I look forward to hanging out with you next